This is for the Module 21 submission for my elevator pitch and then just a show and tell on everything that I've been working on so far. So I'm going to start with the elevator pitch. I should add, and I mentioned this in the webinar on Friday as well, I have had to drastically scale this back. I've sort of realized over the past couple of weeks that I really had the scope on this off, which was a learning moment in and of itself. The elevator pitch that I had for the original game was Best Nest is a creative exploration game where players get to help diverse birds find the loves of their life and build their dream homes, travel across multiple diverse biomes, and find amorous birds in need. Use interviewing strategies to decipher the truth and what they need. Challenging quests, puzzles, minigames, and quick thinking will help these birds find the hidden items of the world, and imaginative design will help make the best nest a bird could dream of. Enjoy a diverse fauna and the humorous personalities of this cast of characters as you answer the pivotal question of what do birds want? So that was the original elevator pitch for the game that up until sort of this past weekend I was going to make. After giving it a little bit more thought, I've actually decided to pivot that to just submitting one of the mini games that is part of Best Nest. So Best Nest has a couple mini games that are going to go into it, one of which is basically just Flappy Birds. Another one is Battleship that's sort of reimagined as Battle Birds. There'd kind of be some other elements to that as well. So really I've been trying to focus more on the Battleship aspect. So in this case, one thing that I was just working on is, is one of the bird models. So this is a 3D bird model that I created in Blender. This is going to be one of the dive bombing birds. I still have to make one more bird model for the ships, essentially. And then I'll have like a smaller version of that where it'll be multiples lined up next to each other to represent like smaller powered ships, and then just like one very large version to represent maybe like a very singularly powerful bird, to sort of equate to the different tiers of battleships in that game. Other things that I have worked on. So this is right now going to be the base map that I kind of use for the battleship board. So it's in a sky instead of over water. And then the tiles for the individual like spots are, I think, going to be leaves. I'm either going to make them leaves or feathers. I'm not quite sure yet. I kind of went back and forth on whether or not I just wanted that to be a material that I applied to like a cube that I flatten into a tile, or if I want to make something in Blender. I feel like I should just make it a tile with a material just to kind of scale back some of that difficulty. And I just remembered that there were questions that we had to answer, so bear with me as I scroll back and find those. Other things that I have worked on, so I've nearly completed the Flappy Bird game that is going to go in this. I still have to make like the point counter and the actual end screen, so like the UI essentially, but other than that, that is another element of the mini game, or a separate mini game that's nearly complete. I just didn't want to submit that one. Let's see. Do your concepts resonate with others? Why or why not? You know, I think what I'm sort of scaling it back to is ultimately the mini games are going to be things that are enjoyable, right? The mini games are going to be things that people are familiar with or have played with before in the past. And so I think there's some fun to be had there. So I'm just going to see if I can find the Flappy Birds minigame. So I think, you know, there's nothing wrong with kind of going back to the basics of what kinds of games we know people enjoy, and people do typically enjoy, you know, something that is a battleship style game. Is there a demand for your project? If so, has that demand already been met by something else? Again, this is just kind of going to end up being a rehashing of something that already exists. If the question is pertaining to the larger game, then I would say there's not really anything that exists like this. And so there's some great opportunity there. Are you confident that developing your concept into an actual game will result in something engaging? I think so. I think when I picture the trajectory of like the life cycle of the different scenes and the stages of the game and how that comes to fruition, I think that there could be a lot of engagement there. I think it's the sort of thing that people won't necessarily go back to, but I'm also not looking to make something that keeps people coming back again and again. And I think there can be a lot of fun in that. The sort of like dating / design character, creator game or some sort of a design element game is very popular. Are you worried about any potential issues with your concept? If there's significant issues, how do you plan to overcome them? I mean, the only significant issue with my concept is me. I think anyone that's learning to make games would acknowledge that the biggest barrier to entry for them to successfully make a game is themselves. And so, I don't really consider there to be any major issue beyond my ability to make a game. So for example, this is the Floppy Birds game. That is another one of the mini games that would be going into Best Nest if I actually complete Best Nest to fruition. Again, this is not the game I'm submitting. This is just one of the other things that I was working on that was part of the larger game that I was going to be designing. So, and do you appreciate the changes that you've made? Yeah, absolutely. Again, I talked about this during the webinar. The last few months have kind of been crazy. I've had to sort of pivot and focus a little bit more on my actual career right now, and less so this class, and certainly less so the making of the game. And so I think scaling it back to saying, I'm not going to get hung up on whether or not I can make this whole game. I'm just going to try and make one of the mini games is still something to be proud of, because that's still something that's taking a huge chunk of work off of my plate further down the line. So I think it was a really smart move to make. And I think if I hadn't done it, I just would not have been able to submit anything at all. So I think it was the right call. But that's it. Thanks.